to our array of listeners for Behind the Glass Doors. Monday morning, we got Chris Messina, Oliver Wood, and Chris Merton. Today, we're going to have a chat about the importance of choosing the right agency for your business. And, not all agencies are the same, and not all agencies are the right fit for different clients. Right. So, Olly, obviously, you and me are at the forefront when people come to PWD or any agency and say, we need this, and the importance of making sure that we are the correct fit for us and for them becomes more and more prevalent.
Yeah, it goes both ways, I feel, in terms of, are we the right fit for the customer? Are we going to be able to service them properly? Do they get it? I guess, do they understand what value an agency can bring? Obviously, when you go with an agency over a freelancer, you are paying a premium, but at the same time, you're getting all these extra services and resources and knowledge in-house. And it's obviously a one-stop shop. So often we get people coming in and they're sort of trying to compare dealing with, somebody they found online or their local neighborhood, little marketing person. But the problem being is that person is a one-trick pony. And agencies, I liken it to, as business class or whatever, the fact is you've got multiple people here. You've also got hierarchy, which I think is understated and valued in the fact that, if you're dealing with a freelancer, let's say, and things start to not go perhaps quite right, who can you go up to kind of, get that resolved and sort it with? You can't, right? You're stuck with that one person. So invariably that, if that then leads to a disagreement, what happens? You've got the same person. You've hit this roadblock and you're still in, it's like being in a relationship. You are still with that one person. We had
depends what kind of relationship. joking.
But we had a, recent where a client is, saying, look, I'm just not getting on with my account manager. There's just a personality clash or whatever it is. Well, no dramas. We can swap you out for a different team. And yes, there's going to be a bit of relearning there, but the fact is we've still got access to all your stuff. We can do an internal briefing session and we can...
You're not starting again totally.
You're not starting completely again. You don't have to go back out into market, try to compare apples with oranges. And, that's the thing.
I think something that I find in the kind of business development side of our business, there is people who have been, probably for similar reasons to you mentioned, have been burnt previously, and they do tend to put all agencies into that same basket. Why would I come with someone else? It's happened before. And I think, and we're not the only one, PWD, we do take a lot of pride in getting results, right? We're not the same as most agencies. And I spoke to a lady last week and she's, I think, had 3 different agencies. A few of them were overseas, which I think may have been a bit of the problem. One was Australia-based, not Perth-based, Australia-based. And her question to me was, it's just going to be, not really a question, it's going to be the same again. Like, I'm going to kind of commit to you guys and, I'm going to be made all these promises like I have been at the start with these other agencies. And I think the only way you can get around that is by, showcasing our work, but getting results. And
I also think
some runs on the board.
I also think the main 2 key points are communication and proactivity. When you first start out, communication and proactivity are probably the 2 things, especially somebody who's feeling a bit jaded coming in for the first time or have been in the market for a little while and coming in. If you have good communication and proactivity, already you're going to be in a better spot. Because
I think good communication is key because with clients like that, and I've had a few of those conversations over the years. I think setting the expectations and not bullshitting them up front is really important as well, because there is a reputation of we can do this for you, we're going to get you here, we can get you ranking in a few months. No, you probably can't get them ranking in a few months.
Show, don't tell, right?
Exactly right. So I make sure, and not just with these clients, with all clients, that I'm very transparent about. Yes, we would love to take your account on, but if you're expecting this in month 1, it's probably not going to happen. Because if I tell them it's going to happen, it doesn't. You've got the same scenario exactly again, right?
I think the communication actually goes both ways. And my advice to a client that's out shopping for, marketing help or web design help, be it with an agency or freelancers, is one, first and foremost, do not buy on price. That's probably the biggest mistake you can buy. And I know that's hard, it's easier said than done. But as I guess when they're coming from a position of naivety, that, really the only common thing that they can kind of go by is price.
Yeah.
But to me, they should be more looking at perhaps value.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
But treat it like any other professional relationship you would. Like, if you go to a solicitor or you go to an accountant, you're always going to get the best out of them if you are actively, you're the squeaky wheel almost, right? That, you're actively sitting down with them and going through it. And we've seen clients. I remember Luke Aveling.
Yep.
Who would come in here and he'd treat his marketing like a board meeting.
Yep.
And we'd have, proper agenda, proper notes, actions. We'd go through things. And although it was very regimented, it did progress very nicely, right? Yeah. Whereas if you just sort of expect, marketing to be set and forget, well, clearly it's not. The market moves, promotions, cost per clicks, there's a lot of things happening and moving at any one time, algorithm updates, etc. So, to just think that you can sign on to a retainer, hand that off to the agency, be it PWD or any other, and just expect it to just happen is unrealistic, right?
It needs to be two-way.
You need to show that you care about your business.
Right.
You need to show that, you're passionate about your business. And undoubtedly, you're going to get more from your service provider than you're paying for, right? If you show that you're passionate and you care, because ultimately, the emotional side of the people that work here are going to respond to somebody better that shows direct interest, but also treats the relationship as a partnership, not a master-slave relationship, right?
And that was the thing, too, what you were saying about the idea of a freelancer or a one-stop or somebody who's just going to do it as a project. We're, as an agency, we're invested in the project. So it's not something where we just have deliverables, obviously, we're going to meet and things we're going to do, but we're always going to be trying to think from a business perspective, what can we do to enhance your business? What can we do to add value? And that's the thing that's really important. We do add value, and we're always thinking about not just the thing in front of us at the moment, which somebody who is kind of doing a one and done or someone who's a freelancer might think of it as, oh, here's my project, here's my contract, I'm in and out, right? But we're always thinking about the next phase. What can we do to bring them to the next phase? And that's something I think an agency does even better in those situations because they're invested. We're more invested in the account or the client than we are as just one project.
I'll kind of get all these points of view on this as well. Like we regularly, that's probably a fair word, get people who come with a website project and say, I've started this project somewhere else, be it offshore Australia. Can you just fix it up for me and take it to the end?
And why don't we?
A fair bit,
Well, look, we don't want to inherit somebody else's mess. More often than not, that relationship has gone sideways for two reasons. The person that they've chosen, the agency freelancer, has run out of steam, willpower, so they've essentially just got frustrated with the project, or they've run out the financial resources to finish it off, right? Sure. So, and that's kind of indicative of smaller players because, of course, they've got a 1-to-1 ratio. So they can only be working on one thing at one time. They're not scalable unless they've sort of developed themselves this kind of offshore back end, and their overheads have increased. And so, of course, they need to feed the business with new business. They're not getting enough new business, and that dries up. Essentially, the machine breaks down. So that's kind of generally what happens with smaller outfits, one-man bands, two-man bands, because they don't have that consistency.
And ghosting is the worst. Like when you can't get back in touch with the person that you're dealing. And you mentioned the idea of being an agency and local. We have the ability to have multiple touch points. So it's not, you can't ghost somebody. You know what I mean? And you wouldn't anyway. But if you're somebody doing it just on their own, even overseas or something, and all of a sudden your lines of communication are gone, you have 60% site that's almost ready to go live.
All you got to do is just stop replying to those emails, and you're cooked.
But that's it, and that's the thing to keep in mind is you have to think about having multiple touch points.
I reckon it would be 2 or 3 times a week I get a comment from a client to say, so can I deal with a person, are you accessible, can I pick up the phone? And I can only assume that that's come from a previous experience that they think that they won't be able to speak to a person.
You can tell that too.
I get it regularly happens.
A lot of these Sydney agencies, they're not in Sydney, they're actually over in India. They've just bought themselves a Sydney telephone number and a serviced office address. It's complete nonsense. But clients unfortunately don't do enough due diligence to realise that. I've always been a big advocate of physical presence, name on the building, the doors unlocked.
Right, it's accountability too. Like when you put your name on the top of a building, you have a comment. Everyone in the office feels a sense of accountability and really trying to adhere to this idea that we do have our name on the top of the building. And it's not something where you can't take that lightly.
Yeah.
And you can't just be like, well, I'm just gonna phone it in or something. You can't do that because obviously you do care and you are invested, but when you have accountability, it's a completely different situation.
At the end of the day, if they've got a qualm, an issue, whatever, they can make an appointment and we'll meet with them digitally or physically. It doesn't really matter. If we have to, we'll drive out to them. And I think a lot has to be said for that because to me, that's an insurance policy.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't factor the fact into our hourly rates is that we do have those layers of hierarchy. We do have a manager over the top of the account manager you're looking after. The account manager has an account coordinator, so we've got failover as well.
Yeah,
if one gets sick, COVID, whatever, you've got minimum 2 points of contact, generally 3, because you'll have the general manager's contact details.
Yeah.
Plus, you've got the person that originally brought you into the business, which would be Chris, me, or Lou. And that level, I think, that's what you're paying for. And if clients are not sophisticated to understand that, they're probably not our client because they're just shopping they don't realise the value that brings, the security that brings.
Yeah.
And, going back to, I guess, the original question of why don't we take in other people's websites and say, can you just finish this off? It's because more often than not, they haven't been done properly from the start.
Right. And we're starting again.
Yeah.
We're starting again, and then we're taking the onus and responsibility for somebody else's work, right?
Yeah.
So let's say they have got to 80%. Well, if that thing's cooked, who do you think's then going to get the blame?
Yeah, come back up.
We're going to get the pointy end of the needle, and that's unfair. So we then can't, warrant it properly. We can't, give them technical support because it wouldn't have been done in a standardised way.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, if they wanted to try to get it for the, cheap, well, that's the responsibility of the client.
When you started PWD in 2007? Yeah. So at what point between then and now did we kind of move, or did you move from that probably small age? I think there was only a few of you to start with, right?
Well, it was just me initially, but...
And when did we go to that kind of upper echelon of agencies where we had that hierarchy? Would it have been when we came here?
No, I moved into 105 Charles Street, and I guess that's when we started to have, proper designers and developers and things like that. I've always had a big focus on doing custom, so there's always been a design face to the business.
Yeah.
I guess initially I was probably doing what a lot still do to this day, which was buying templates, themes off the internet.
Yeah.
But the issue with those is that consistency of them being able to provide them support, and those sites were fairly generic, and I guess it didn't really put the business into... We were lumped in with everybody else.
Yeah.
People come to us because they want something, better and unique. They've had the generic looking site.
Yeah.
And when you start to get a bit bigger and you sort of care about your brand and your image and how you're perceived, you don't want to be seen as, that generic site. So that's why I guess people seek out a custom agency.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm losing my voice. But I'd say that would have been around the sort of 2010, 2011 kind of period when I'd moved out from working from home in Charles Street and taken a proper office.
So it's been a decent amount of years we've been doing the proper custom, the proper agency service.
Yeah.
But we might, with 13 minutes, we might wrap it up there. We've gone a bit longer than normal, but that's okay. So Chris, Olly, thanks for jumping in. We'll do this again next week. I've had so much fun. Be lucky, Perth. Cheers.